Thank you very much, Tara, for that introduction. Welcome everyone, it's great to have you here today. We've got an amazing set of professional and dedicated mining automation people in the panel. We're really excited to get into this topic of the future of mining automation. We'll be digging deeper into the areas of opportunities and risks in this area, focusing on the entire project lifecycle. It's an important topic, it's an interesting topic, and hopefully we can have some good engagement on this one. So Brad, next to me, we'll start with you, first question, and we'll flow through the rest of the panel on this one. The mining industry has, in many areas, led the charge in industrial automation. What are some of the key challenges and barriers of implementing mining automation in the industry, and how can the industry overcome these hurdles?
Thanks, and thanks everyone for coming and having a listen. Look, for us at Pilbara, we're quite young in our journey. We haven't been operating for that long. So when we think about automation, it is absolutely the future. It's been around for a long time. But there are barriers, and there's barriers to entry on that as well. When we think about automation, we think about mine to mill, and where we can actually adopt automation along that journey. Really for us it's around planning. So to overcome this, we need to plan, we need to understand it, and we need to see what parts of the business it's going to touch along the journey. But not all automation is available to every miner. For us, we operate 150-tonne trucks. Garry and I have had many discussion around when that's going to be available for 150-tonne trucks. But what we need to do is plan in the industry for what it means to be able to adopt new technology, and particularly automation. If we don't set up now for what the future looks like, then we'll get left behind. So one of the barriers is thinking that you'll be ready when it's available. But if you don't start doing that now, you won't be ready for when it's available. And you need to do that planning work now.
Absolutely, Andrew.
Yeah, I think we've made a lot of progress, and I totally agree that the technology that's available today is actually really only available to those who can afford it. And so for smaller organisations, newer organisations, so that's actually a key challenge that I think we need to overcome as a whole industry. The other thing is that a lot of the solutions are individual solutions. And so moving forward and to essentially get the performance and achieve what we need to achieve, we need to get a better integrated whole of system approach. Like, we still really don't have automated diggers loading those trucks. We still have people manning the support vehicles around those trucks. And also with the decarbonisation challenge, I think, is the truck really the right material movement option? So I think we've got to challenge ourselves around the design going forward to overcome these challenges. And then, one bit before the other thing with the accessibility to this technology, at the moment you need a significant amount of people to support it, to implement it, and to deal with all of the upgrades and the change management process. So that's a major undertaking. So that's a key challenge that we've also got to solve. In order to solve this, I think we've also got to think differently about the equipment from an automation perspective. How do we design for automation instead of trying to retrofit onto equipment that needs to be, that's been originally designed to be handled by a human? And the other key gap that I see is around the maintainability. We have these trucks, these automated pieces of equipment, but we're still maintaining them manually. And so, fine on the surface, but as we go deeper underground, it's going to be a major problem. So I think that's another challenge that needs to be overcome. And another way to overcome this is we've got to work together across the whole industry in order to solve them.
Yeah, look, I think if I just put a broad perspective, nothing to do with Komatsu, there's a lot of technology out there. Businesses will adopt a technology, and there's not a one size fits all. I think it's important that businesses understand that technology introduction to their business is not about the technology necessarily aligning to normal practices today in mining. You need to be flexible enough to change your practices in your business through a change management program, culture, people, and then take the standard skills that you would have in mining today and optimise the autonomous systems. And the key point is mining skills, I think a couple of the team have talked about, is autonomy is taking away a lot of core skills in mining. And so if you think of autonomous trucks, an operator would come into the business and go through his life journey and become the best shuttle operator. But what we're seeing is we've got none of that journey anymore, and that's why automation will come in shovels and other pieces of equipment, because the skill base is not there. And probably the other part is change management is so critical with autonomous operations and systems. Actually having that embedded in your business, and like Brad touched on as well, having that solid, because all this automation is going to do is really highlight inefficiencies or deficiencies in your process and procedures. And if you don't have core good practices within your mining operations, you're going to be trying to leverage the technology of the future that has been developed, not optimising the system you have today.
Tara, do you have?
So I guess from what we're experiencing at Continental is there's a mismatch, a disparity between the corporate strategy, sustainability, automation, digitisation, and operations. Operations are plugging holes and trying to get the dirt through the mill to get the dollars, right? And they don't have the time to trial this, trial that, etc. And so there's a real mismatch, and also an apprehension from the guys on site, because they're not sure whether this is going to take their jobs or not. So there's that sort of disparity, particularly as we're talking about in drones and automation. For the actual automated drones, the legislation from CASA for BVLOS, which is beyond visual line of sight, has only come in within the last 14 months. Yeah, so technology is way ahead of legislation. So we've got this mismatches going on as well as you've got those data silos on site. So I think that's a challenge, but I agree totally is that if I put my product management hat on, is we need to go through that customer journey. We need to talk to the people. We need to bring the people along for the journey. We need to find out what they're using, what they need, what their future needs are, where the gaps are, and address those. So I think together we can all do that. But it's going to take effort and possibly, task force, which is difficult for the smaller companies. But we have to start doing something, because operations don't have the capacity and bandwidth to do so.
Absolutely.
We just had a couple of points, I think, very important ones over there. But automation means you still need people, and you need people to operate automation. So you need really good people that understand the industry. So I think that's one important point. And the other thing with automated products today, and I talk about just generically across OEMs, is it's very much market driven, what our customers are seeking as the next product into the field. And it doesn't have the volume base that the automotive industry is. And so I would say automation in mining, even though I would say it's in a reasonably mature state in Australia, is actually pretty immature globally. And a lot of the core products that are in the automotive space, they will start to flow more into the mining space, which will actually speed up the technology and the capabilities. So I think that's a key point.
That's a good point, absolutely. And another element of what we're talking about here is really you've got the operators who can help the automation process, but then we have the displacement of the workforce as part of that equation. So probably one for the operators. What's the challenges? What's the ways that we can help that workforce displacement?
Oh, look, from our perspective, and there's been both Andrew and Garry bring up some good points. You know, we're focused on being as productive and efficient as what we can be. The fundamentals of your mind need to stick around that, and then link technology that are stepping stones to where you want to go into the future. So when we think about autonomy, we go, okay, if we want to go autonomous, when's it going to be available? Kind of don't know. But what do we need to do along that journey? And we've made decisions. So for us, we've bought fleet. We've taken mining in-house. We've bought a fleet management system. We're going to dispatch. We're going to auto assign. That enables us to then train our workforce to be prepared and have a look at reskilling our workforce along the journey. So that when we get to the point of being able to adopt automation, we've actually built some in-house knowledge and started to build that skill set. And it comes back to the point of what I said, it's planning, and the planning is the change management, the skills adoption, the re-skilling of staff, and then you have the complexity on top of that of electrification. We've got to think about our maintainers. Andrew brought it up before. We're still maintaining, you know, manually. Well, what happens in 10 years' time when they're all electric and they're not diesel? Have we thought about the journey of the skill set we need to be able to do that in 10 years' time? And how do we actually start that now? Because if we don't start it now, we're not going to have the skill sets to be able to adopt a wide range of autonomy or electrification into the future. So that planning piece and understanding that along the way will enable you to be the most efficient that you can and the most prepared to be able to adopt and retraining your workforce. And collaboration with industry, with government, with educators, they all have to play into that, because we can't do it, not one miner can do it by themselves. So it's going to have to be a collaborative approach.
Yeah, I'll build on that. It's an ecosystem, really. In order to where we want to go to, it needs to be looked at from an ecosystem approach. Like, I would even go to say that we need to lean in and help our academic schools on making sure that the university courses are actually aligned with where we want to get to. And then, of course, the vocational skills. And there is definitely some fantastic work that's happening. But I believe that probably there's more that we can do to support the VET institutions to get the courses available to be able to upskill existing staff, but also to be able to attract new people in. Because you're absolutely right around it's still going to need people, but the level of knowledge and capability is going to be a bit higher than what we've got today. So I think and that's going to take an ecosystem approach. It's not something that one company can.
Agree. Now, talking about the skill sets and the knowledge that we need from the generations coming into the industry, one of the things they are bringing in for sure is the piece on AI and machine learning. Hot topic, obviously, at the moment, and has been for a while. Going to maybe starting with you, Tara, what's the role that you see in mining automation and AI and machine learning? How does that enhance the effectiveness of what we're trying to do in this space, particularly in the areas of, say, predictive maintenance across the mine life cycle chain? And I suppose a secondary question on that is how important is data governance in that, because obviously that's really the backbone of how we get improvements out of those types of systems.
So you say it's the secondary question, data, but it's actually, it underpins everything. Like, data is king, and it's got to be good and it's got to be clean. Yeah. So you can't just do AI now. You can't just say, okay, well, we've got a drone, right? It flies along, we can do idler inspections. It learns, it then starts to preventively tell you when you need replacements, and then you can get to predictability. You can't just go from one to the other. So you've got to start now. You've got to start training these models. But what I want to say with the data and the ability that it can provide, at the moment scenario, you've got maintenance, conditional monitoring for a conveyor, so we've got CONMON, we've got asset management, and we've got procurement. Now, at the moment, they're all using different systems and they're all siloed, and we're emailing, that might need replacing, and all of that. You laugh, but it's reality, right? And then maintenance goes out and replaces the roller on the idle set, and then asset management don't know, procurement didn't order the thing. So being able to use these analytics from good base data, you can start doing that predictability. And unfortunately, as we all know, we had an accident earlier in the last month or so against a conveyor. What if we get to a point where legislation comes in when no one can be near a moving part conveyor? So you can't just have the unplanned shutdowns, which are costly anyway. You've got to be able to plan when you're going to shut down. There's no moving parts. What you're going to need, maintenance, procurement. In that scenario, maintenance, procurement, conditional monitoring, asset management, all have to be singing from the same song sheet. The other part that I want to add here is that I see a lot in the halls, in all the different technologies, and as someone mentioned earlier, certain departments need certain things, right, and different things. What we need to do is start integrating, we need to start collaborating, and we need to have one platform that these departments all have apples or bananas or whatever they need, right? And then we can really start building on the AI and the analytics and the predictability. And so then we can start saving costs, efficiency, etc. But again, it comes down to you have to bring people on the journey.
Can I add a couple of points? Is both what Andrew and Tara mentioned. Governance on data is key first and foremost, and then the quality and the collection and timing of that. But and again, touching on Andrew as well, is the ecosystem, and how ERP system, whatever the business is using, because as you adopt these technologies, whether it's operator assist all the way through to autonomy and then eventually AI, it's all part of some of that. You need to be able to push and pull the data usage from those tools up and down that ecosystem to optimise, pit to port, for example, in a mining operation. And I think it's important that those systems also have the capability, because no OEM has all the best widgets, and so you've got to be flexible enough to have bolt-ons, where some in the show over the last 3 days have some fantastic tools that are bespoke to provide an optimised solution for a task. They need to be able to connect into that system and flow through that ecosystem, so the data piece will be key.
I think it's an interesting point that Tara you make, is around bringing people along for the journey. It's also about educating the levels of your business so that you can adopt new technology. If we think about procurement, we need to have procurement processes in place. We need to have user cases done from an operational level. We need to be able to collaborate with the technology provider, software providers, so that they actually understand what we're trying to achieve, and that all along the line, right up to the executive level, you've got a grasp on what that roadmap looks like and the decisions that you need to make along the way. And you need to be able to have open systems. If we don't have open systems, it falls apart, and you will have bespoke, and it won't be fully automated, and you won't get the benefit from it, because you're going to be customising, or you're going to move away to another system. So if you get that procurement piece right, you get the user case right, and you get that through your organisation, and you get buy-in at that level, you've got a roadmap. Sure, that can change, but at least you've got a goal and you know what you need to do, so as you do actually create what's required. We're fortunate, we're young in the journey, and I often think, oh God, we're a little bit behind. Actually, we're in a really good spot, because we can make these decisions now where we don't have 10, 15 years of a system that we're dealing with, 10 or 15 years of data that we're dealing with. But if we don't do it correctly now, then the ecosystem of we're just going to recreate what's happened in the past with other organisations.
So just on you're absolutely right around the governance, and on the piece around we're a small industry. You're absolutely right. We're a really small industry. So that emphasises if we could actually work out how to share that information, that data, in a way that protects the rights and protects the IP, core IP of each of the individual players, I think we can achieve great things. Because we are heavily siloed. We've got silos within silos. We invent new silos even on top of that. So we're really good at siloing, right? And so I think there's a real opportunity to sort of try and tackle that. We're having a stab with the OSDU out of the oil and gas industry, which is a little, some people aren't too happy with it, but it's something that we're exploring because we believe that could be a way to sort of at least link across the whole value chain. So we've started an exploration, but we've got a lot of pressure to sort of look at how can we enable at least data registration and what happens with that data, making sure we understand the linkages, and also looking for gaps in feedback loops. That's another thing we don't have a lot of, is feedback loops. And so how can we improve our systems if we don't have those feedback loops? And then on an equipment perspective, we buy equipment and it's almost like there's a sever of that equipment with that OEM. We now take it on, we manage all the data, and there's really not a lot of feedback. And so with that ecosystem, it's not just within an individual mining company, it's with the whole ecosystem, the service providers, the original equipment manufacturers, so they can get that feedback and so they can improve the quality of that, all that product line or that capability and improve. And I know there's elements and there's agreements where we do achieve that, but I think across the board, we don't do that very well.
Yeah, look, and I think, from our point of view, this morning I think we're at 455 autonomous trucks running in Australia. But if I think about touching on a couple of points, again, we think that's great, but I think we're still on a maturity journey, and I think we're going to complicate it with GHG, battery, hydrogen, all those other things that are out there, and there's aspirations and practicalities don't always align. And so if I talk from an OEM point of view, it's really much over the next 2 years we are going to be on another learning journey of how they are going to integrate, because battery technology and what data we need, it's going to be a learning journey for us over the next 3 to 5 years as well. So that adds more complexity to it, but I think the Australian mining market particularly is pretty robust in the fact that people are driven down that path, and culturally in Australia it's much easier. So we are bringing people on a journey, maybe slower than it should be, but I think overall the mining industry is up for the challenge. So I think it's going to be good.
So that part on up for the challenge, what would you say across the panel is the next challenge? What part of mining has not yet been automated that the industry is really desperately seeking a solution for?
So I think it's rather than going and looking at what's not being automated, I think we need to step back and look at the whole system, right? Because we've got these point solutions, and so I'd love to have Komatsu and Caterpillar equipment operating in the same cell together. I know that is being worked on. It has been.
We're doing it today.
But extending across any piece of equipment, like a Volvo or name the vendor, but also integrating not just the trucks and the loaders and the feeders into the plants, and then also thinking about the integration we've got to do with our customers. And so what I'm seeing is a much tighter link that we need to do with we're digging the dirt, but the end users of the dirt. So there's going to be a greater need for that transparency. We've got the battery passport coming in Europe. That's going to drive a lot of change and a lot of need to maintain that transparency. But I think that's a good excuse for us to step back and go, okay, how do we look at this from a whole system perspective? And so I think that's what we need to do. That's the next big challenge.
Is just step back and look from that pit to port kind of and beyond, like you said.
And work together.
Yeah. I think
that collaboration piece, integration with your suppliers or your clients. I really think that what people aren't sort of understanding, I guess, is that data is coming and it's coming at pace, and we need to understand it, and we need to understand it quickly. And you can't just go from where you are now to predictability, etc. So I think I agree with Andrew. We can't see what we don't have yet because we're not where we need to be yet. And so looking at those gaps, and certainly looking at how we can enable our people on the sites to understand what the data is, whether it's visually, whether it's VR, whether they've got their VR goggles on and they're sitting there as if they're walking the belt. We need to make it visual because there's just so much of it coming. So I think those are some of the challenges as well that we need to address.
Cool.
I agree, you've got to step back. Utopia for us is from exploration all the way through to the product we get at the back end of the mill. At the end of the day, we're digging dirt to provide a product. How do we be the most effective and efficient we can? And how do we get as much metal out the back end of that at the right spec that the customer wants? And if I think about that chain, it's around the geotechnical data, it's around the metallurgical data, it's around then the drill data. You start at exploration, you get it all reserve, resource, you then go to grade control, that's a little bit better. You go to blast hole digging, that's a little bit better because your spacing is better. There's so much data that you can draw on what the actual product is that you're digging to then feed through to the excavator driver to make sure he's digging it cleanly, to then making sure the right product's going into the back of the truck, to then putting it onto the right blend finger, to then having that data go through your crusher, through your primary rejection, through your flotation, and at every step of the way understanding what that product is doing to your asset, what adjustments need to be made. So when I think about automation, I think about the automation of the data and the learnings you can get before you even get to the point of saying, I want a driverless truck. Because a driverless truck is only one part of it, and that won't mean anything if you're diluting your ore body and you don't understand your ore body well enough. Then an automated truck is just going to put shit product to your mill. We don't want to do that. So I think stepping back is right. We've taken the approach of looking for the problem statements at every step of that mineral process, and then looking at what technology is going to give us the data and the understanding so we can get the best product we can out of the back, and also the most efficient extraction of that product.
Yeah, I think, I said I wasn't going to, but OEM, we actually don't care about the truck, to be honest with you. It's like a tool in the shed, so it's like a shovel, it moves dirt. You want to go in there, you want to pick something up, or pick, you get that could be an excavator. It's about the system and how that system integrates into the business. And we always talk pit to port and optimisation. And I think the other important piece is, again, every customer is on a slightly different journey, and depends on their geology, depends on their mining operations, their business maturity. There's early adopters and there's some that are fast followers. I think importantly, those businesces are trying to leverage that first adopter piece. So, it's like some of the big mining players in Australia, they don't want us to share data broadly, right? Because that's their leverage in their core business. So it's really important that's understood. But as Andrew touched on, globally, ISO standards and a number of things like that, they have to come and come faster so that we can provide that ecosystem that allows plug and play from other OEMs and other suppliers in the market to optimise within a customer's operation. So that's definitely one of our key things in the Komatsu group globally.
Look, I think we've covered a lot of different themes, and it's been really interesting concepts that have been raised, and really putting a call out to the industry of how we need to approach mining automation, and particularly around the challenges and risks on it. If I could go down the panel now, and if you can at all describe the 2 or 3 words that you think the industry should focus on, or how they should approach mining automation going forward.
Plan, collaborate, and you need open systems.
Yeah, I'll agree with all of those, and then add, we've got to really focus on building out our ecosystem and treat it as an ecosystem. So the more we can collaborate with that, more we can nurture that, the better.
I think focus on technology culture within the mining industry, educate, and then you need to develop people. They're probably the three.
I think, exactly everything you said. People as well, that customer journey and what they need. Because each department's different, so let's break those silos down. Let's use this data and the ability that we've never had before to improve the operations that we have for our companies and for our people.
Great. I think that's a really good place to end the panel today. Thank you so much for sticking around on the last day. I appreciate it. And please join me in thanking the panelists, Tara, Garry, Andrew, and Brad.